today to do a little book review, book discussion on Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. This book is the sequel to Vicious, which is actually my favorite book that I read last year. So I was definitely highly anticipating reading this sequel. I went into it not expecting to love it as much as I loved Vicious. I didn't want to go into it with too high expectations and then be disappointed, but I ended up really enjoying it. I didn't love it as much as I loved Vicious, but I thought it held its own and that it was a really great story overall. So I think I'm just going to do this video as a spoiler discussion. I just figure if you're excited for this book, you're probably going to read it regardless, just because Vicious was such a popular book. But if you want to hear my thoughts on Vicious, I will link my review below. But yeah, let's talk about Vengeful. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really great, but there were some things about it that I didn't like so much. So I have some notes of things that I want to talk about. They're not really in any particular order. They're just kind of like talking points, but I guess I'll just give my brief thoughts on the book first. I loved seeing more about Elie and his past and kind of understanding where he came from and what his childhood was like. I, of course, always love seeing Victor. He's one of my favorite characters. I enjoyed the new characters and their powers. I love seeing all the different kind of powers that V.E. Schwab could come up with. And I also love the way the plot came together in the end and all of the things that went down. It was super crazy, but it was very entertaining. The major thing that I did not like about this book was how it switched back and forth on all of the different timelines. I couldn't even keep up with how many different timelines we were reading about. Some were from 20 years ago, some were from 2 weeks ago, and it kept jumping back and forth, and each new character had their different timeline in that time period, and it was just too much. I've seen this critique from a lot of people, so I know I'm not the only one that felt that way, but it was just a lot to keep up with. I felt like it detracted a little bit from my reading experience just because I was like, okay, so what timeline are we in? What timeline did that happen in? There's just a lot of plot lines and a lot of things to keep up with. That's the major thing that I didn't really enjoy. The other thing is that I feel like this book got a little bit monotonous and boring towards the middle when Victor is going about killing all of these people because they can't help him. I feel like that just got a little boring. I feel like this book was a little longer than it needed to be, and I kind of wish different things were focused on and like different timelines were focused on. I really loved the new character June. I thought she was such an amazing addition to the story. I loved her power and that she got to be a bunch of different people, but then she never really felt like herself. And I thought it was so cool how if someone killed her when she was someone else, that person died. I thought it was super cool, and I don't know, I just really liked her personality. I liked her and Sydney, so I kind of wish we got a little more development with her and her past, but maybe we will in a third book, who knows. I liked Marcella's storyline, like where she came from, all the trouble that she had with her husband. Like they had a very strange dynamic and relationship, and how whenever she got her ability, she just wanted to be powerful and to take over all of the mobs and everything. I thought that was really interesting, but I kind of feel like more could have been done with her character. I feel like she was really promising. I kind of get the point of her character to show that like these superpowers, no matter how invincible you think you are, there's still something that can kill you, and that's what happened to her in the end. Her power and her greed just ended up killing her in the end, but I kind of felt like I didn't really like that ending for her. But I understand why it happened. And I kind of feel like Victor and Elie flipped in this book almost. So I feel like in Vicious, it was way more about Victor and his story and his past and all that, whereas this one focused a lot on Elie, which I liked very much, because in the first book I hated Elie and didn't want to know anything about him. So this book showed me that there was way more to him than I thought, and you know, it showed his childhood and how he grew up and how horrible it was, and he was tortured by Dr. Haverty, so I definitely felt bad for him. V.E. Schwab did an amazing job making me feel both love and hate for these characters, which I think is kind of the whole point of this series, is to show that someone can be good and evil at the same time. There really are no heroes in this story, and I think this book drove that point home. I kind of wanted there to be a little more bonding time with Victor and Sydney. So I know Victor's whole quest in this book was to find someone to heal him, and there was a little bit there of Victor trying to protect Sydney by not telling her that her power power is basically killing him now. So I could appreciate that, but I just felt like there was an emotional layer to Victor and Sydney that we didn't have in this book as much as the first one. And in the end, I felt like I should have been more emotional than I was whenever Victor didn't show up for Sydney, even though he said he would. So I don't know, I just wish there was a little more bonding time with them. Sydney and Mitch had some time together when they were like playing that card game to see if they could stay in or go out or whatever, and like they had time together. But I just feel like Sydney and Victor didn't have time together. I wish we had like one more scene in the middle where they were having a nice time together and Victor wasn't being all moody and angry all the time, which I mean he had a right to be, but I just wish we had some more time between Sydney and Victor. But I'm so glad Serena was not brought back. I really thought Sydney was going to bring her back, and I was just thinking, oh my gosh, what is going to happen if Serena comes back? But I'm really glad she didn't. I just didn't think that was necessary, but I think it was an important point for Sydney to realize that, hey, I'm crossing some lines, I shouldn't do this. The last point I want to talk about is just Victor and Elie and almost like the paradox of their relationship and how they ended in this book. So I kind of felt like there was still some love there between Victor and Elie in the end. I don't know, a few things that they said. Elie, I think, was saying something about, look at what we created. It's because of us that all these people have these powers and all this. It's like there's still this unity between them and still this like us mindset. Kind of like they're still working together in a way, but they're still always tied to each other because of their experiences. So I kind of felt like they mended a little bit of their relationship in the end, but I know they both still wanted to kill each other. But Eli's death was really fascinating. I don't know, just all of that coming together was kind of like a mind bender. Everyone believed that Elie couldn't die because he always healed. And Dr. Haverty created the serum that blocked powers. So therefore, Dr. Haverty's serum blocked Eli's ability to heal, thus killing him. But Victor's the one this whole book that's been on the brink of death. So the same serum that killed Elie, who was apparently invincible, actually saved Victor's life. So that's just like a mind twist. So Victor was saved by the same thing that allowed Elie to die. And I guess that's just showing like how these powers work. They all have their downfalls. So I think this serum that Dr. Haverty created, if there's a next book, which I'm pretty sure there will be, is going to play a part in it, and now Victor has it. I can't wait to see where that goes, but I think it was such a cool twist to add to the story. So yeah, those are all of my thoughts on Vengeful. Overall, I loved it. I love seeing the old characters and meeting new ones, and I just love all the science and the powers and all of that. So yeah, if you've read this book, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you agree with anything I said, or if you have any other thoughts, I'd love to hear. I hope you enjoyed my little book talk, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.